local government, you have to fix those basic services that the Constitution makes you responsible for. And that is deliver basic services. There's no single basic service that is as important as water to people because they can't live without water. And to live without clean running water to drink, to wash in and to cook with is just purgatory for people. They will never see any kind of future in their society unless they can at least get proper water. So the reason that there's no water in parts of Johannesburg is because for 30 years there's been no maintenance of the infrastructure and no development of new infrastructure. And the Hurst Hill reservoir is cracked, so they can't fill it. So they can't get enough bulk water for the population. So the first order of business will be to invest in the maintenance of the infrastructure to try and fix it. That's obviously not going to fix the problem overnight because the problem has crept up on us for 30 years. And so we're going to have a maintenance plan, we're going to have to fix it, and particularly we've got to have a plan to provide those residents with water in the meantime. So that's number one. We have to do exactly the same with the electricity infrastructure, exactly the same with the streetlight and roads infrastructure, with refuse removal, with sewage systems that need tremendous investment in infrastructure. So all of those things are on my laundry list.
It's not all bad. There are pockets of goodness and excellence in Johannesburg as it is. Have you identified those and what would you say they are?
Well, I was in Newtown this morning, and I think that looks a lot better than it used to look when I was living there. There's a wonderful student precinct in Davey Street in the CBD, surrounded by Deborah Station and a horror zone. But there you have a public-private partnership and brought the private sector in to do the development. It looks like another country. It looks really fantastic. And I would really like to take my hat off to the people who developed that and show what's possible in the rest of Joburg. I went to Orlando and De Kloof and Soweto. They're looking good too. They really are looking good. Those are middle-class suburbs now, and they were clean. I don't know if they've just been cleaned up for the G20, because I know that there are some G20 events there, but the place was looking good. So there are some places that I've seen now which have really impressed me.
But you wouldn't say Joburg is the world-class African city that the slogan still...
Joburg is very far from a world-class African city. It's got the potential to be a world-class African city, absolutely. It's got the potential to be the most throbbing, vibrant, growing, and economically productive city in Africa. We've just got to get the governance right.
Now, on Saturday, John made the point of smaller parties, which I suppose at a local government level where service delivery can really be felt by people. Smaller parties really railroad the whole process, don't they?
Well, you know, smaller parties get voted for by people. And people who vote for smaller parties must know that they're voting for instability in government. It's as simple as that. Because smaller parties, when they hold the balance of power, can decide with a very, very small number of votes whether there's going to be an ANC or a DA mayor. And most of the time they gravitate to the ANC because the ANC is prepared to offer them incentives and inducements that the DA isn't prepared to do. So voting for a smaller party really ends up with the ANC in control again, normally.
Speaking of the ANC and the President's recent comments about how well the DA-run municipalities work, what do you think is going on in the ANC? Because instead of potentially recognizing the issue or doing something about it, they're eating each other instead. What do you think is going on in that organization?
The ANC is a product of many, many years of an approach that is designed to destroy an organization. You can only have a sustainable political party if you have three things in place. You have to have a coherent political philosophy. to which you default in all circumstances. The ANC has none of that. The ANC likes to talk about non-racial, non-sexist, democratic. They are none of the above. So they haven't got any core political philosophy. No one notes whether they think that the public sector and private sector are partners or whether the private sector is a colonial idea from hell. Nobody knows whether the ANC wants to develop a non-racial democracy or whether they are racial nationalists. They do not have a coherent political philosophy, and without that, you will fail as a political party. Secondly, you must have a coherent organization that is really well run, an oiled machine across the country in all departments. The DA's got that. The ANC is very far from that. It is the most chaotically run organization I've ever seen. And the third thing is that you've got to be able to attract really good talent. And the DA does that as well. So the ANC has got none of the three legs on which a coherent organization is built. All they've done is build themselves up on patronage, and therefore the internal processes of the DA are the internal processes of the ANC are a war for control of the patronage networks. That is what they are.
One would have thought that they saw the warning signs in the previous municipal elections because it played out again in the nationals. What do you think it bodes for the ANC in the next election?
The ANC is in a bad place. The polls are showing it on a steep decline, and they haven't got the wherewithal to turn that around because they're too divided. They don't have a foundational philosophy anymore. The leader can't lead on the basis of that foundational philosophy. The organization is in chaos. People are not chosen on merit to be councillors or to be anything. It's a closed shop. The entire process is gatekeep good people out. And on that basis, you really can't resurrect an organization. I think the ANC is in terminal decline.
One would have thought that Cyril's comments would have, at the very least, prompted some kind of self-reflection.
Excuse me. What it has done is prompted a witch hunt against Cyril Ramaphosa for telling the truth. So far from them thinking, well, what can we do to fix it? They're saying, how can we get rid of this president who is promoting the DA? They're never going to look at themselves and say, we have a problem.
At the same token, you have always been, and I wrote about it a little bit today, is you are as much of a stalwart. You turned Cape Town around, you were Premier of the Western Cape. You're coming back, so do you also feel the halo effect of your potential leadership?
There's no halo effect with me at all.
Uh-huh.
I mean, people love to hate me, and that's fine. I tell the truth, I do what I believe is right, and if people don't like it, well, that's fine too.
I was going to ask you about that, because especially on Twitter, you don't seem to suffer people gladly.
No, I don't. You know, I tell the truth as I see it. I don't like bots, I don't like trolls, I don't like Cambridge Analytica or Bell Pottinger. I know that these are all networks of paid influencers who are trying to bring you down. I don't care about that. I fight back.
Do you think they're still active?
Yes, of
under
course
different
they are.
names?
Of course they are.
Yeah.
The ANC has its whole crew of influencers, so does Actually Say, for example. Well, of course they are. But Twitter isn't the voters' roll, so I couldn't give a damn. It's the voters' roll that matters.
Excuse me. Then, how do you rate your chances? Because I suppose it's early days and people are already calling you mayor of Johannesburg. What do you think your chances are, and what is the fight you're going to have to fight? Because it's a long way out of the elections, potentially. I mean, how long is that journey, and how are you going to have to tackle it?
We really have a good chance of becoming the biggest party in Johannesburg. Our polling is showing us now that we are the biggest party in Johannesburg, which is a very good thing. And it is critically important for us to be the biggest party by a thumping margin. Because only then can we establish stable government on firm foundations. If we have to try and establish government on a 5, 6, 7-party coalition, it'll be unbelievably difficult to do what has to be done in Johannesburg.
Joburg is not the only municipality in Gauteng, for example, that is not doing well. There's Ekurhuleni, there's Pretoria, which is neither here nor there. What's happening there? Who are the candidates, or what is the plan?
This election is about the battle for Gauteng. That's what this election is about. The battle for the Gauteng metros. And we are trying to put our most experienced, toughest and best team into Gauteng to lead the resurrection of the metros in Gauteng, which will by definition transform the entire province. Because the province is a province of metros. So we can transform the entire province and win Gauteng in 2029. That's the objective. So to win where we can, to bring better government, to show people that better government does improve their lives, and then to go on and win some more. That is what we do.
Candidates for, if you put your shoes on as federal chair, who are the likely candidates going to be for Ekurhuleni and for Tshwane?
Well, Tshwane is already announced.
Oh yes, sorry.
Tshwane is Brink. He went through a rigorous process just as I did. And Ekurhuleni is still in process. Now, I can never say who's going to emerge from that process because I'm not on the selection panel. It is a free and open and fair process overseen by an ombudsperson, and it is going to be a fair process that will result in the best possible outcome for the people of Ekurhuleni. We will give them the best candidate we can find to do the job.
So you had to go through the same process again to become candidate?
Of course. I had to write a major submission on a tough topic. I had to present that submission. I had to go through a tough range of interviews. It's a very tough thing trying to become a candidate for the DA.
Things like illegal mining that decimate infrastructure. It's an Ekurhuleni problem, it's a West Rand problem, it's a Joburg problem, and it's getting worse. Those kind of issues seem to be left by the wayside right now. Nobody's doing anything about it. Why do you think that is?
The DA, first of all, is a party of the rule of law, and we won't tolerate law breaking to the extent that we have the power to stop it. Now, at local level, you don't have many policing powers at all. You can have a metro police service, but its job is crime prevention. It can't investigate crimes. It can't do crime intelligence. It can't prepare police dockets. It can't do all the heavy lifting to bring the criminal mafia to book. That is why we're fighting very hard for the decentralization of policing powers. We want metros to have direct line function, management control over South African Police Service in their areas of jurisdiction. Because if that happens, then we can drive investigations. We can remove the corrupt elements that have the mafia links in the SAPS. And we can make sure that we investigate, that we get evidence, that we get crime intelligence working properly, and that we bring corrupt criminals to book.